Across the globe, billions of people follow religions that claim to relate with a divine reality. Yet, when religious adherents speak of God, are they referring to the same ultimate being? On the surface, some religions share names or attributes such as mercy, creator, sustainer, but there are also differences in identity, story, and essence. In this video, we'll define what we mean by God across major traditions, explore arguments for it and against the idea that all religions worship the same God. We will examine different models of understanding the divine from theological, historical, and comparative perspectives, and conclude with an academic summary that helps you think critically and respectfully about this question. First, let's clarify our terms. When we ask if religions worship the same God, we need to unpack what counts as God in different traditions, whether personal, abstract, or transcendent. We must also consider which religions are we comparing. Major world faiths such as Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, and indigenous religions and new religious movements. And finally, what does worship entail? Prayer, rituals, doctrine, theology, moral life, or spiritual devotion. For instance, monotheism is the belief in the one supreme personal God, as in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Henotheism refers to focusing on one God while acknowledging others. Polytheism involves belief in multiple deities with distinct functions, such as in ancient Greek religion or certain forms of Hinduism. Non-theistic traditions like Buddhism do not center on a personal creator deity at all. Once we see that different religions conceptualize God in fundamentally different ways, some as creator, others as impersonal reality, some as singular, others as multiple beings, it becomes more complex to claim they all worship the same being. Many people and interfaith advocates assert that multiple religions ultimately refer to one divine reality, known by various names and attributes. In the Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, we find significant overlaps. Judaism refers to God as Yahweh, the deity who revealed himself in the Torah and history. Christianity refers to Yahweh, understood through the person of Jesus Christ and the doctrine of the Trinity. Islam refers to Allah, an Arabic term meaning the God, considered to be the same deity who spoke to Abraham and Moses. Despite theological differences, many argue these faiths are oriented toward the same divine being, especially given their shared scriptures and moral frameworks. Within academic and interspiritual circles, the perennial philosophy suggests that all world religions point to one ineffable ultimate reality, shaped by cultural language and symbolism. In Hinduism, Brahman is the impersonal absolute reality underlying all things. In Mahayan Buddhism, the concept of dharmakaya or emptiness describes as non-dual foundation. Sufi Islam and Christian mysticism both describe mystical union with a divine presence beyond conceptual thought. According to this view, all religions worship the same transcendent mystery, even if the language and form differ. Supporters of this view also cite scriptural affirmations and interfaith statements that emphasize commonality. For instance, Isaiah 45 in the Hebrew Bible, quoted in both Christian and Islamic traditions, which says that there is no God but God. Jewish philosophers like Maimonides describe a God beyond human categories, resonating with other abstract theological traditions. Interfaith dialogues often emphasize unity over difference, viewing religious diversity as a mosaic of human approaches to the divine. However, many scholars and religious adherents argue that religions refer to fundamentally different conceptions of the divine, and so cannot be said to worship the same God. One key point is doctrinal difference. Christianity teaches the Trinity, God as the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, which is rejected by both Islam and Judaism. Islam's doctrine of Tawheed, the absolute oneness of God, explicitly denies any division or incarnation of God. Judaism similarly emphasizes God's indivisibility and uniqueness. From the perspective of these faiths, Christianity's concept of God may not qualify as the same being. Other differences include the role of revelation and scriptures. Each tradition claims final authority for its own texts, the Torah, Bible, and the Quran, and often rejects the revelations of others. Furthermore, some religions like Hinduism or Buddhism understand the divine in impersonal terms. In Advaita Vedanta, Brahman is not a personal God but an undivided absolute. In Buddhism, especially Theravada, there is no creator or God at all. Worship may be directed toward enlightened beings or bodhisattvas, but not in the same way as the Abrahamic religions worship a personal moral deity. In indigenous traditions, the divine may take form of spirits, ancestors, or forces of nature. In Shinto, kami are not transcendent deities but local spiritual presences. These religious forms diverge significantly from the concept of an omnipotent, omniscient, and personal God. There are also significant ethical and ritual differences. Religions embed their divine concepts within moral codes, myths, and practices. For example, karma and moksha structure the spiritual goals in Hinduism and Jainism, contrasting with the conventional framework of Judaism or the grace-based salvation in Christianity. Finally, many religious traditions are exclusivist. They claim their own understanding of the divine as uniquely true. Conservative Muslims often view Christian worship of Jesus as a deviation from the true monotheism. Traditional Christians may see other gods as idols or misunderstandings. In such contexts, the claim that all religions worship the same God is not only incorrect but offensive to core beliefs. Scholars have proposed different models to describe these relationships. John Hick's pluralist model sees different religions as various culturally shaped responses to the same transcendent reality. Each is a valid but limited expression. Inclusive monotheism suggests that while religions differ, some are closer to the full truth than others, such as Christian claims that others worship God, but only through Christianity he is fully revealed. Exclusivism maintains that only one tradition possesses the true knowledge of God, and others are either mistaken or worship something else entirely. Another helpful distinction is between functional equivalence and ontological identity. Functional equivalence means religions fulfill similar roles in society or personal life, like guiding ethics or fostering community, even if they speak of very different gods. Ontological identity asks whether they refer to the same actual being. This question lies at the heart of our inquiry. Let's review. Some argue that religions worship the same God because of shared roots, especially among Abrahamic faiths, or because all spiritual paths point to one ultimate mystery. Others argue that differences in doctrine, concept, and practice mean religions speak of entirely different beings. The answer often depends on definitions. Shared terminology does not imply identical meaning. God may be personal or impersonal, singular or multiple, abstract or embodied. Many traditions claim exclusive truth, while others accept plurality or ambiguity. Looking at case studies, we see more complexity. In Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, we find theological differences. Jews and Muslims reject the Trinity, making some questions whether they truly refer to the same God. Christians may affirm continuity with the Jewish God, but believe that Jesus is the fullest revelation, which Jews and Muslims reject. In Hinduism and Buddhism, concepts like Brahman, Atman, or Nirvana point toward ultimate reality, but do not resemble the personal creator God of Abrahamic traditions. Buddhist thought, especially in its earliest forms, lacks a God altogether. These metaphysical systems differ so radically that calling them references to the same being becomes problematic. In indigenous traditions, deities and spirits are often local, ancestral, or natural forces. While powerful and sacred, they are rarely seen as the one universal God described in monotheism. In the religious movements, concepts of the divine can be highly syncretic, blending multiple worldviews into new forms that further complicate comparison. From an academic standpoint, we must carefully analyze whether we are comparing names, functions, symbols, or ultimate realities. Interfaith dialogue often proceeds on the assumption of functional similarity. Doctrinal theology, however, tends to focus on exclusive claims and deep metaphysical differences. Depending on your framework, you may see religions as reflections of the truth or as distinct and sometimes incompatible systems. To reflect further, consider these questions. How do you define God? Which traditions are you comparing? And how do they describe the divine? Is a shared moral vision enough to claim shared worship? What does each tradition say about revelation? Do non-theistic traditions even fit into this comparison? In summary, the question, do all religions worship the same God, has no single answer. Some perspectives affirm a shared divine reality beneath different expressions. Others highlight irreconcilable differences in theology, concept, and experience. Your answer will depend on how you define God, how you interpret religious claims, and whether you prioritize unity, diversity, or doctrinal consistency. This question challenges us to think critically. respect religious differences, and seek the deeper understanding across spiritual traditions. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. This is World Religions, different faiths, one destination. Until next time, take care.